You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Greetings, everyone. Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily, episode 1573, brought to you today by Horse and Rider On Demand. In today's tip, Horses in the Morning co-hosts Glenn and Jamie are joined by Dr. Camargo, who answers all the questions you've ever wanted to ask about cribbing.
Horse and Rider On Demand allows you to train smarter, not harder. Our training video collection, featuring some of the industry's top Western professionals like Bud Lyon, Cody Crow, Ryan Rushing, and more, can help you perfect your horsemanship and improve your performance in the arena. Get access to hundreds of videos and learn more about events like ranch horse versatility, reining, working cow horse, ranch riding, and more for just $14.99 a month. Watch anywhere, anytime. Horse and Rider On Demand can be streamed from any smart device. Visit ondemand.horseandrider.com to start your 7-day free trial. That's ondemand.horseandrider.com. So we have Dr. Fernanda Camargo. Did I get that even close to right, Doctor?
Kind of close. Yes, Fernanda Camargo.
Fernanda Camargo.
Camargo.
That's like a name that should be in a song. It's beautiful.
Well, Fernanda was in a song, right? The male counterpart of my name.
Oh,
the ABBA song?
Yeah. You're right.
It sounds way prettier when she says it.
Yeah, it does. Everything sounds way prettier when she says it. So now we have you on in our horse health segment because we had some listeners that requested to learn more about cribbing. And, it is one of the things that everybody talks about, right? I mean, we all, right now we have 4 horses on the farm. One is a bad cribber. And everybody that owns a number of horses over the years ends up with a cribber. So that's, one of the things we wanted to talk about with you today. And so tell us a little bit about yourself, though, and what you do.
Okay, so I am originally from Brazil, as you can expect with my accent. I was born and raised there. I went to vet school in Brazil, and then when I graduated, I came to the United States here at the Gluck Equine Research Center to do my PhD in equine pharmacology and toxicology. And then I graduated from my PhD, and I now work at the University of Kentucky in the Animal and Food Sciences Department.
Very cool. Very cool. And so now you wrote a paper on cribbing and some other things, and that's, I think, what caught the attention of our producer. What are we talking about here with these behaviors that, these kind of addictive behaviors?
So are you just wanting to know about cribbing or the others also?
Let's talk about that first, because that's what the listeners really wanted to know about.
So cribbing is when a horse grabs with his front teeth, his incisors, onto a solid surface and then make this characteristic sound as they seem to be sucking air, but they're actually not sucking the air, but they make this grunt noise as they, crib onto that solid surface. So that's what cribbing actually is. It's different from wood chewing, although for some inexperienced people, they may think that wood chewing is the same as cribbing. Wood chewing is actually reported as a normal behavior in feral horses. So wood chewing is actually normal. So if you have horses that are eating the tree barks, that is actually a normal behavior of horses. Now, cribbing is a stereotypic behavior. It is not normal for horses to crib, although it's very common.
Now, yesterday in the elections, I noticed that a lot of states approved marijuana. And one of the things you've heard about cribbing, now you're going to see where I'm going with this. One of the things that you've heard about cribbing is that it gives them a high. Is that true? And is that sort of like when you're smoking pot? Is that kind of high?
Well, so research shows that horses that crib, as they crib, they release more endorphins. So yes, so it is almost like, I don't know if marijuana, but almost like a cigarette smoking, like the horses calm down as they crib. But also research shows that horses that have a tendency to crib have higher levels of cortisol than horses that don't crib. So they are already more of a frustrated kind of a horse and more stressed kind of a horse. And as they crib, they lower the cortisol levels of their body and also release endorphins. So so it is kind of, an addiction for these horses.
And is it a learned behavior? Why do they start? Why do some start and others not?
So some people, so anecdotally speaking, some people say that they never had a horse that cribbed, and they brought this other horse that cribbed into their farm, and now other 2 or 3 other horses started to crib again. So anecdotally speaking, yes, some people say that it's a learned behavior. However, we haven't been able to prove it by research. So what we have proposed is that some horses are more predisposed, genetically speaking, and when they see or when they're put in the correct environment, which we can go through that, and then they see another horse in the same environment cribbing, they can then start cribbing. But that's not, from a research perspective, is not considered learning behavior. It's considered that now they are actually eliciting that behavior. They're showing something that they were born with, that desire to crib.
I've also heard in that, doctor, that potentially horses crib. One horse cribs because it's in a situation, and the other horses crib because they're in the same situation, and it's a life situation that they are in, as opposed to they're teaching each other. They're just all kind of going crazy together, so they all kind of learn it from each other too, is kind of what I've heard it. And that led me to my next question is, I have a friend that's considering buying a brood mare that's a cribber. Do mares teach foals to be cribbers? So we think that cribbing may be a genetic predisposition. So if that's the case, if the mare indeed has a genetic predisposition, she may pass it to the foal, and the foal can actually become a cribber. But one of the things that is actually very, very interesting is that foals from mothers that are overbearing, don't let the foals express themselves, don't let the foals play, they're super overbearing, stressed mares, they actually lead, those foals have a higher predisposition to start cribbing than mares that are more laid back. So if that brood mare is a cribber because she's stressed, she's frustrated, and that's why she cribs, so she may pass on that nervousness onto her foals. So that can become a problem. Now, when horses start to crib, so horses can start to crib when they get weaned. So there is research that shows that the acidity of the introduction of sweet feed to these foals, as the time that they get weaned, they start to show this stereotypic behavior. So they start to crib. So maybe because of gastric ulcers, they start to crib to relieve of that pain. The overbearing mothers also so they start to crib to release their frustration. So it depends. I own a farm and I have 20 animals in my farm, and I have had several cribbers throughout the life, and I've never seen an adult horse learn from another adult horse how to crib. And I have a cribber right now, and he hasn't taught anyone in my barn to crib. So I kind of tend to disagree that an adult horse will teach another adult horse to crib. But if this mare is a nervous mare, is a cribber, overbearing, she may teach her foal to crib. Yes. Oh, wow.
So what it comes down to, what I'm hearing is, just like people some are predisposed to addictive behaviors and some are not, it's kind of that way.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, now everybody wants to know, and this was the ultimate question, and you know what I'm going to ask next is, what do we do?
What do we do? So first of all, we need to, I am of the opinion that cribbing is destructive, okay? A lot of people think that if you try, and if you read papers, you can see different opinions, but a lot of people think if you try to stop cribbing, the horse is still anxious, the horse is still frustrated, but now he cannot show his frustration. He cannot crib, and he cannot relieve himself of that frustration. So some people think, let the horse crib, okay? However, if we just let the horse crib, number one, it's extremely destructive. It will destroy property, fence line, their teeth, and when they destroy their teeth, they're not able to chew very properly, apprehend food very properly, and that can lead to other problems as, stomach and GI upset as well. I am of the opinion that, number one, if there is an underlying cause of why the horse is cribbing, say, for example, he still has the gastric ulcers that he acquired when he was weaned, I think the horse needs to be, scanned to see if he has gastric ulcers and treated for the gastric ulcers, number one. Number two, Horses need to eat a lot of forage. Research has shown that horses that eat less than 15 pounds of forage per day have a higher tendency to crib. And I think it's because of the acidity of the stomach again that makes them uncomfortable and they start to crib. So treat the gastric ulcers. Give a lot of forage for these horses in the form of pasture, high-quality hay. There is other research that shows that different types of forage, so different types of hay, so alfalfa, grass, beet pulp, so just to offer that to the horses. Obviously, the more the time that the horses spend outside, browsing and and grazing and having fun with their friend horses, they have less stress in their life. So anything that you can do to diminish the stress in the life of the horse, that will help his behavior. Now, a broodmare generally doesn't have a lot of stress in her life, and she's still maybe wanting to crib. So, so it's just you need to figure out what is actually happening to this horse that he is wanting to crib. Is it at feeding time? There is what we call feeding frenzy, when horses get so angry during the time of feeding that they start cribbing, they start kicking. So you need to calm down and make these horses more calm and less stressful.
Hold up.
So this is what I would recommend.
I got to stop you there. How do you do that? Because I have 3 horses that are boarded up my barn that have all been rehabilitated from starvation situations, and they are all 3 massively food aggressive, anxious, and they kick and they go crazy when it's feeding time. How do you stop that? You brought up that point. I'm going to ask.
So how do you stop the horse they're so aggressive? You have to feed them separately and away from any other horse. So if you feed them in a stall and you have another horse in the stall beside him, that becomes a problem because he can smell that horse. So you need to separate as far as possible one from the other so they don't even see competition. They don't even smell competition, so they can be quiet. So you can maybe feed one at 4, one at 4:30, one at 5. However, if you do that, the one that is at 4:30, the one that is at 5, they're going to be so angry because they didn't get picked first.
They're going to be doing a lot more than cribbing by the time they get in. By
the time they get in, they kill themselves already. So if you can separate them, as far away from each other as possible, that would be ideal. Yeah. So if it's a stall situation, you can put the feed bucket in one corner and the other feed bucket on the other corner of the stall, like one to the right and the other stall to the left, so they don't eat as well as smelling the presence of the other horse.
Okay.
And then skip a couple of stalls and put the third one.
The one we have here, we have 4 horses here, and the one that cribs is one that is high-strung and kind of just stressed out about life. And he's out all the time. He's beautiful pasture. They feed him endlessly. And so they're doing everything right. He's just a stressed-out horse, and cribbing's the way he kind of deals with it. Now, let's talk about collars. Some people think cribbing collars are just cruel and, inhumane. So what's your story on collars?
So I think that cribbing, again, is a vice. And the same thing that I think that smoking cigarette, and I am sorry for those that don't believe it, is a vice and it's deleterious to your health.
Who doesn't believe
that? I think that cribbing is... people that smoke, I guess. It's deleterious to the horse's health, and they do have a higher chance of epiploic entrapment colic that can only be corrected via surgery. So and plus it destroys their teeth, it destroys property. So about cribbing collars, it will detain horse that is less stressful. So it will prevent a horse that doesn't crib that much from cribbing. Horses that are set and they are going to crib no matter what, so the cribbing collar is not going to have an effect on them. So that being said, you have to tighten that cribbing collar so much to be able to prevent that it starts to break the skin of the horse. And that I don't really like. I don't want the cribbing collar to actually break the skin of the horse. So for that particular case, we need to go back to, does the horse have ulcers? Are you sure? Don't feed him sweet feed, There is research that shows that high-fat feed is actually better than feed that had molasses. So that's what I think about the cribbing collars. There's different types. The one that has worked the best for my personal horse was the Dare collar. That one is the one that worked the best, and I put the merino sheepskin on it so it doesn't actually break the skin. So that, in my opinion, is the one that works the best. But Miracle Collar works for some horses too. The one that is the metal in the bottom, I have seen horses, they just turn it sideways, upside down, and that one is difficult to actually keep in place. Yeah,
I've seen the same thing with the horses here that we've had over the years. And I think it probably, I do think it's a destructive behavior, but I think mentally for the owners, it's even more destructive. I mean, we just fret about it. And I know I do, even with the horses here, not even my horse, but yet it's just kind of annoying. And you're going, I wish he'd stop that. So you're constantly fretting about it too. It's just one of those situations.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing with cribbing, some horses are so addicted that they spend so much time cribbing that they stop eating. So those horses at a body condition score of 2 or 3, because they want to spend so much time just cribbing that they don't eat. So for those animals, it needs to be stopped because they need to start eating more. So there is other devices that are used, to prevent cribbing, and that's what some horses need to resort to so they don't die of starvation just because all they want to do is crib all day long. It's like those alcoholic people, all they want to do is drink, and then they look like skeletons.
So and in that case, you have what we call the functioning alcoholics, right? That can get through the day, and then there's the ones who can't. So it's about the same.
Correct.
All our references today are coming back to ways to get high or stoned or drunk. That seems to be the thing. I could listen to you
The
talk.
horses that I've owned,
Yeah.
my cribbers have always been functioning cribbers. They never were. So
We got a new term today.
They're high functioning cribbers.
The high functioning cribbers, and then there's the ones that are just laying in the gutter.
Low functioning.
That's right.
Just sucking society dry.
Dr. Camargo, thank you so much for joining us. We really, I could listen to you talk all day.
Well, there you have it. Horse Radio Network has thousands of engaging podcasts for horse people, and you can have them sent right to your phone. Just subscribe via your favorite podcast player. This is Coach Jen, and I will be back again soon with another tip. Until then, go ride your horse. The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements made by guests on the Horse Tip Daily. Please use your own judgment when listening to the tips on this show.